Hello friends, welcome back to Makaran's channel, and today we are going to see the second part of the digestive system, in which we will be seeing the salivary glands, the process of deglutition, the pharynx and the esophagus. So in the part 1 of digestive system, we all have seen what are the various organs which are present in the oral cavity or the buccal cavity. The organs we have seen that are the teeth, the tongue, and today we are going to start with the salivary gland. So salivary glands are collectively responsible for secretion of the saliva, the salivary fluids in the oral cavity. This fluid assists in the initial activities of the digestion that we will be seeing in our next upcoming slides. The total volume of saliva secreted daily ranges between 1 to 1.5 liters. Okay, so most of this saliva is produced during our meal time. That is, when we are eating anything, the maximum amount of salivary secretions occur at that time when we are eating our meals. Okay, as well as a smaller amount of saliva is produced to ensure that oral cavity remains moist. Okay, so this small quantity is continuously secreted throughout the day and night in order to maintain the moisture in the buccal cavity and protect the inner cell linings of the oral cavity. So in the buccal cavity, in the oral cavity, we are having three pairs of major salivary glands. Okay, so three pairs means in the total it becomes six glands. Six salivary glands are present in the mouth. And if we talk in terms of pairs, we are having three pairs of salivary glands in the oral cavity, and they are named depending on their position. Okay, the first salivary gland is called as parotoid gland, the second is submandibular gland, and the third is sublingual gland. Okay, I'm telling the names once again. We are having parotoid gland, we are having submandibular gland, and we are having sublingual gland. Okay, now these names or these glands are named based on their positions. Okay, so the parotoid glands are placed below the ears. Okay, so we are having two ears, so below each ear we are having the parotoid gland. Okay, now below the mandible, the mandibular bone behind the chin, okay, the mandible, the lower jaw, on each side of that mandible, we are having one submandibular gland. Since it is located near the mandible, mandibular bone, it is called as submandibular gland. And two glands placed below the tongue, they are called as sublingual gland. Since they are placed below the tongue, they are called as sublingual gland. And all these glands are having ducts. Okay, so over here you can see that the parotoid gland, the submandibular gland, as well as sublingual gland, all are having ducts which open up into the oral cavity. So whatever saliva is produced by all these three sets or three pairs of salivary glands, all those secretions of saliva enter into the oral cavity. Some secrete below the tongue and some secrete above the tongue, so that the entire oral cavity remains moist. So this is a general diagram showing the histology and anatomy and position of various salivary glands present in the oral cavity. So we are having the parotoid gland and parotoid duct which secrete the secretions of saliva into the oral cavity at the roof of the oral cavity through this duct. We are having the other pair, that is the submandibular gland, which secretes the secretions of saliva below the tongue, as well as we are having the sublingual gland which is placed immediately below the tongue, and it is having small ducts or openings to secrete the saliva below the tongue. Okay, so these three pairs of glands are responsible for secretion of saliva, production and secretion of saliva into the oral cavity. Okay, now if we look at this gland microscopically, we are having acne, in which it is the sac, multicellular sacs, which are responsible for production of saliva. Okay, so all these sacs are made up of secretory cells. Okay, these secretory cells continuously produce saliva. They are secreting the saliva, and through these sacs, the sacs are having ductules. Okay, small ducts which open up further into larger ducts, and these ducts will finally carry the produced saliva into the oral cavity. Okay, so that is in short the production and secretion of saliva. So moving to the next slide, what are the functions of saliva? We have seen where saliva is present, which glands are responsible, what are the locations of the glands, and now once the saliva is secreted, what function it plays in the process of digestion. Okay, so the important functions are listed over here. First important function of the saliva is lubrication for swallowing as well as speaking. You can imagine that if the oral cavity is completely dry, if the saliva is completely absent, we are not able to speak as well as we will be not able to swallow the food which we are eating. Okay, so saliva acts as a lubricant and it facilitates the process of swallowing. Okay, the second function is remineralization of tooth enamel. Okay, tooth enamel consists of various minerals. We all must have seen what minerals are present in the teeth. Okay, so majority of the portion is of calcium and other minerals. Okay, so saliva is responsible for providing those minerals for enrichment, for hardening of the tooth enamel. Okay, the next function that saliva plays is cleansing of the mouth. Okay, we know that with the help of saliva we can clean our mouth, the oral cavity, from inside. Okay, the next important function of saliva is taste. Okay, if the saliva is absent, our tongue is not able to sense the taste. The taste buds which are present on the surface of the tongue will not sense the taste unless and until the molecules are dissolved in the saliva and are carried up to the taste buds. Okay. The next function of saliva is it acts as a buffer and maintains the oral pH in the oral cavity, which is responsible for its normal functioning, as well as saliva carries some certain antibodies, that is specifically IgA antibody, which is responsible for as a protective or immune system in the oral cavity. Okay, the next major function is dissolves the food in the mouth. Okay, we know that if we are eating certain kinds of sugars or water soluble foods, they start getting dissolved so that they can be easily ingested into the body. Okay, the next important function is chemical digestion. Yes, saliva is responsible for chemical digestion. Saliva contains the enzyme amylase that breaks some starches down into maltose and dextrin. Thus, the digestion of food occurs within the mouth even before the food reaches the stomach. So once we have done with chewing of the food, mixing of the food with saliva with the help of tongue, chewing the food with the help of teeth, and the salivary gland secreting its secretions, saliva, into the oral cavity and mixing the saliva with the food, the next step is to swallow this food. Okay, so the process of swallowing is called as deglutition. Okay, the process of swallowing is called as deglutition. Okay, so before the swallowing can occur, food must have a right texture and consistency. Okay, you all must have experienced this, that we chew the food for certain period of time so that it has its own texture and consistency that we can easily swallow. Okay, we cannot swallow larger chunks of food without chewing them, without mixing them properly with the saliva. Okay, that is not possible to swallow. Okay, so the food must have its right texture and consistency. Now this process of deglutition has its own phases. Okay, so the first phase is the oral phase. Okay, deglutition, the first phase is oral phase, which is a voluntary kind of phase. Voluntary because it is controlled by us. We can control how much we are going to chew, how much we are going to mix the saliva properly with the food. Okay, and it occurs in the mouth. Okay, the food is formed into a bolus. Okay, so finally whatever kind of food we are eating, it is continuously mixed with the saliva and a common lump of food is formed, that we call as the bolus. Okay, and the bolus is then forced into the pharynx with the help of the tongue. So tongue is simply going to push the bolus into the pharynx. So this process will be called as oral phase of the deglutition. Now the next phase of deglutition is the pharyngeal phase. Okay, now this pharyngeal phase is involuntary in nature. Okay, we cannot control this stage. Okay, once the swallowing reflex is initiated when the bolus hits the sensory receptors in the pharynx. Okay, so when we are swallowing something, after a certain amount of time, when the bolus passes towards the end of the oral cavity and it hits those sensory receptors present over there, the process of swallowing becomes involuntary. We cannot stop that process. We swallow the food then. Okay, so it is an involuntary phase. Okay, and in this process, all the passages entering into the mouth are closed. Okay, except the passage to the stomach, means only the esophagus will be open, rest all entrance and exits will be blocked. Okay, that is, by entrance I mean the tongue blocks the mouth. When we are swallowing something, we cannot open our mouth. We cannot swallow something when the mouth is open. We have to close the mouth so that the tongue can easily push the bolus into the pharynx. Okay, as well as the soft palate, that is the uvula, blocks the nasopharynx. Okay, so once the nasopharynx is blocked, the air cannot enter into the food pipe or it cannot enter into the respiratory system. Okay, so for certain amount of time when we are swallowing, we cannot breathe. Okay, we cannot breathe air inside when we are swallowing something. As well as the epiglottis blocks the trachea. Okay, so from upper side, the nasopharynx is blocked with the soft palate and the epiglottis blocks the trachea. So completely the respiratory system is blocked so that food does not enter into the respiratory system. If small particles of food enter sometime by mistake, by chance, into the respiratory system, then we get a coughing response. Okay, we start coughing uncontrolled. The third step of deglutition, or the third step of swallowing, is the esophageal phase, which is again an involuntary kind of phase where the peristaltic movement moves the bolus from the pharynx up to the stomach. Okay, so esophagus continuously shows a wave-like contractory motion, wave-like contractions, that is called as peristalsis, and because of this movement of the esophagus, the food is carried up to the stomach. Okay, now once it reaches up to the stomach, the sphincter, that is the muscular ring, okay, it is just like the door or opening into the stomach. So that sphincter, the muscular ring between the esophagus and the stomach, opens and the bolus is pressed against it so that it forces the bolus through the sphincter into the stomach. So whatever three phases we have seen of deglutition, one by one we will be seeing here with help of diagrams. So the first step was the oral phase, okay, where the bolus is produced by chewing of the food and mixing it with the saliva, and this bolus then is pressed by the tongue, it is forced by the tongue to enter into the pharynx. Okay, so this bolus with help of the tongue enters into the pharynx, that is called as the oral phase. Once the bolus enters into the pharynx, the phase will be called as pharyngeal phase. Now in this pharyngeal phase, we have seen that the uvula blocks this nasopharynx. Nasopharynx is blocked by uvula and epiglottis blocks the trachea. So at this portion, the respiratory system is completely blocked. No air can enter into the trachea or no air can enter into the nasal cavity because it is completely blocked from upper side and lower side. Okay, and at this portion, at this time, the bolus is present in the oropharynx. Okay, so after some time, by peristaltic movement, in certain moments, the bolus will be further pushed down into the esophagus. The last phase of deglutition is the esophageal phase. Now in this phase, we have already seen before in the pharyngeal phase that at the end of pharyngeal phase, the bolus is pushed into the esophagus. So over here we can see that bolus is present in the esophagus. Now once the esophagus senses the presence of food, it starts the peristaltic movement. Now because of that peristaltic, the wave-like motion of the muscles of esophagus, the food is further carried, the bolus is further carried down into the esophageal pipe. Okay, at this time you can see that the airway, which was the trachea, which was blocked by epiglottis, is now open. Okay, so air can now easily enter into the respiratory tract. Once the food reaches into the esophagus, air can now pass into the esophagus in the trachea, and we can now breathe. Okay, once the food enters into the esophagus. Now because of peristalsis, the food, the bolus will be entering downwards, it will be pushed downwards up to the lower esophageal sphincter, which is also called as the cardiac sphincter, and it will then push that food through that sphincter into the stomach. Okay, so that ends the role of esophagus. The next major organ present in the digestive system after the oral cavity is the pharynx. Now pharynx is nothing but it is just a link between the food pipe, that is the esophagus, and the oral cavity. It acts as a connection between the oral cavity and the esophagus, the food pipe. Okay, now pharynx is a general term. Actually it is having two divisions, the oropharynx and the nasopharynx, as well as the third division, that is the laryngopharynx. Okay, now nasopharynx is present in the nasal cavity where the air is intaken and it enters into the trachea. Okay, that is the part, that is the portion responsible in respiration. Okay, oropharynx is the part immediately behind the oral cavity, okay, through which the food passes. Okay, so that portion of the pharynx will be called as oropharynx, okay, through which the food passes. And laryngopharynx is the portion of the pharynx which is close to the larynx, which is responsible for speech. Okay, and laryngopharynx is not having any role in digestion. So currently oropharynx is the major portion as far as pharynx are concerned with digestion. So what are the exact functions of pharynx? So pharynx basically serves as a passageway for food as far as the digestive system is concerned. And if we consider the digestive as well as the respiratory system, so yes, pharynx is the passageway for air as well as food. Okay, so food whatever is propelled to the esophagus by the two muscle layers, that is the longitudinal muscle layer and circular muscle layer present in the pharynx. Okay, so with the help of peristaltic movement, the food enters into the esophagus from the pharynx. Moving to the next part of the alimentary canal, that is the esophagus. Okay, now esophagus is just a tubular passage that runs from the pharynx up to the stomach. You can see in the diagram the green colored pipe that is represents the esophagus. So it is just a connecting tube, it is just a hollow connecting tube or portion of the alimentary canal that connects the pharynx to the stomach. Okay, so approximate length of this esophageal tube is 10-inch long. Okay, it is 10 inches long in length. Okay, and it acts as a passageway for food only. Okay, the respiratory system branches off after the pharynx. Okay, so pharynx is a common organ between the respiratory system as well as the digestive system. After pharynx, both these systems go into two different ways. The respiratory system has its own track and the digestive system has its own track, beginning with the esophagus. Okay, so the major function of esophagus is, the first function is that it secretes the mucus. Okay, so because of the mucus, the food can easily slip from this tube, easily slide from this tube and enter into the stomach. And with the help of peristaltic movement, the esophagus pushes the food from the pharynx into the stomach. Okay, now whatever acidity we get, okay, we say that we are having acidity or we say we are having heartburn, it is nothing but sometimes due to excessive production of acid into the stomach, some amount of acid enters into the lower portion of the esophagus where the esophagus meets the stomach. Okay, so sometimes the acids in the stomach enter into this lower portion of esophagus, and because of that there is a burning sensation that we call as heartburn. So over here we can see the anatomical location of esophagus. The pink color pipe that we see over here is the esophagus, the portion of alimentary canal, and it is parallelly followed in front by the trachea, that is the windpipe. We can call this as the food pipe and this as the windpipe. Trachea will be the windpipe, esophagus will be the food pipe. So both the pipes run parallelly, and above it we are having the pharynx. Okay, so after pharynx both these systems branch out as the respiratory system and the digestive system. Okay, then further the aorta originates from the heart and it goes behind the esophagus. Okay, as well as the bronchus, part of the bronchioles, can be seen before the esophagus, indicating that the lungs are located in front of the esophagus. Okay, and finally the esophagus crosses the diaphragm. Okay, it crosses this diaphragm and enters the food enters into the stomach, which is located over here. Okay, through the cardiac sphincter. Now it is called as cardiac, though it is not related to heart, just because it is located, the sphincter is located just below the heart. Okay, below the diaphragm and below the heart. So it is called as the cardiac sphincter because it is really closely related or closely positioned near the cardiac system, the heart system. So in general, if we combine the activities of pharynx and esophagus, we will conclude that these organs have no digestive function. These are not responsible for any kind of digestion. Okay, they are not playing any role in digestion of the food. That is, mechanical or chemical digestion is not taking place in the pharynx or the esophagus, but they are just serving as a passageway to the stomach. Okay, so food initially passes from the pharynx and then the esophagus carries that food into the stomach. So it is just as a transporter of the food. So thank you for watching this video. In our next part 3 of digestive system, we will be starting with the remaining organs of the digestive system, that is stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, livers and pancreas, and we will be discussing the roles and functions and anatomies of all these organs. So once again, I would like you to like, share, comment and subscribe Makaran's channel. Thank you.